This morning, I would like to address the transportation situation on St. Martin. And the issue that I'm going to address is the trans-border route. The French authorities of the Collectivité of St. Martin, under the leadership of Vice President Guillaume Arnel, assisted by the Territorial Consul, Louis Fleming, held discussions with the Dutch authorities, with myself, in the capacity of the Minister of Tourism, responsible for transportation, with Mr. Lucien Wilson, who is the head of the inspection department, the bus association of the French side, and the police officials of the French side. The discussions were held based on the need to regulate the trans-border routes. Other persons that were present in this meeting were Mr. Raymond Duro, the dispatcher and controller. Mrs. Donatien Dormont is a controller of the Territorial Police. Mr. Raymond Lake. Mr. Albert Connor, he's the chef of the Territorial Police. The Gendarmerie, the Vice President of the French Side Bus Association, and the head of the transportation, Mrs. Marie Lynn Hughes. The main agenda points were regulating the trans-border routes, identification of the legal bus drivers that are allowed to service the Phillipsburg-Marigot route, and the control that will be done when these buses enter the terminal on the French side. The reason for the need to regulate and implement the trans-border Marigot-Phillipsburg route resulted from the unbalance that was created by the large influx of buses from the Dutch side on the Marigot-Phillipsburg route, and the fact that many of these bus drivers are not allowed to work on the French side. It is specifically stated in the bus permit that the permit holder are not allowed to venture on the French side. Many of these buses that venture on the French side are in bad condition. As a result, therefore, bad service to the customers as well. Many Dutch side bus drivers do not follow the existing routes, but they create their own itinerary in and around Marigot, and then they do not turn in the bus terminal that other bus drivers make use of and are paying for the uses of this. And many Dutch drivers also, they stop at the marina and create their own bus stops. The reckless behavior of these bus drivers that stop sporadically on the traffic and pick up people on the French side is as a result that we came together in order to regulate this service. Based on what I've summarized, the behavior that these bus drivers are engaging themselves in, we decided to better regulate the bus service between the French and the Dutch side, and the regulation that and recommendation that we came up with, that the Bus Drivers Association from both the French and the bus side will appoint Dutch bus drivers who are in the possession of a valid Dutch permit, a Dutch nationality, in order for them to engage the bus service on the French side. The French side also have enlisted a name of 20 French bus drivers that can come over to the Dutch side and vice versa. One of the problems that we have discussed was that the bus drivers from the French side, they have large buses, the coaches, and they are larger in numbers than those on the French side. Therefore, the need to regulate this came about to break the imbalance that exists at the present moment. The agreement was to allow 30 bus drivers on the Transborder Phillipsburg Marigot route, and presently 15 have received an ID. This ID was granted by the French official. Once these persons go over on the French side, they have to identify themselves by means of this ID. They will also be issued a sticker that needs to be placed on the bus so that the gendarmerie, once they enter onto the French side and they are in the bus terminal, they can be identified. The reason for doing such is to avoid that we have a lot of illegal Dutch bus drivers that venture over on the French side and do not possess the Dutch nationality. Just each government has informed them that once the meetings have been held with the respective bus drivers association, both French and Dutch, they will start with control, specifically on the French side, to eradicate this illegal behavior of the illegal bus drivers from the Dutch side. The documents that these bus drivers will receive will facilitate the controls that will be conducted by the French gendarmerie on the transborder routes. The controls will be stepped up once it is agreed upon by myself and the French officials, Mr. Guillaume Arnel. And once the agreement is made, the bus drivers association from both the French and Dutch side will be informed as to the date that the control will start. This control will greatly alleviate and regulate the bus service between the French and the Dutch side. And it is the intention that other routes will also be regulated, the French Quarter routes and the routes going down to Terbas. I would like to also give an indication as to the amount of bus drivers, the bus licenses that we have. Actually, if you look at it, we have from 2012, there were 212 bus licenses issued and 221. And 2013, 38 bus driver's license and 87 taxi licenses. 2016, no licenses were issued. The reason that no licenses were issued for bus, neither taxi drivers, was that as of February 18, 2014, a moratorium was established in the issuance of new bus and taxi permits. Actually, the inspection department was the department that was issuing these licenses, but as of February the 15th, 2015, the business license department took over this task, and they saw the need to implement the moratorium because of the vast amount of bus and taxi licenses that were out there. Another exercise that I am presently engaged in is by regulating the taxi stands, which we are going to build a taxi stand that opposite the fire department, where the taxi stands will be standing, and the tourists that comes off the port, they will be assisted by the taxi dispatcher and directed to the taxi stand, and from there, they can engage with the services. I also held meetings with the Bus Drivers Association, where they indicated that they also want to have a bus terminal, and I told them that they will have to look for a location, because the location where the present taxi drivers were not available. However, coincidentally, on Monday morning, I held discussion with the VROMI department to ask whether it was possible to still issue that station to the bus drivers. And we agreed upon that that station will be become a bus terminal in order for us to regulate also the bus transportation on the Dutch side, similar to that what has been done on the French side. So the drawings are in the making now, and I will be presenting these drawings from the taxi and the bus drivers to the public.
Yesterday, I had the pleasure of being invited to Parliament, and during the discussions in Parliament, several members of Parliament requested me to express my view or opinion on the news surrounding the central bank, the news reports regarding the central bank for the past week or two. I have prepared a press release which I will hand to you relative to that subject in compliance of the request from members of Parliament. I've taken notice of the recent news reports surrounding the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin. It is lamentable that confidential information obtained in the course of exercising the regulatory duties of the CBCS, that has been leaked to unauthorized persons. The publicity of this information is damaging to the reputation of the CBCS and sends the wrong message to local and international investors in terms of doing business in Curaçao and St. Martin. Investors have to rely on the confidential information provided to the regulator, and that information remains confidential under all circumstances to maintain and guarantee a sound financial system. With this in mind, the law dictates that certain information has to remain secret. The leaking of secret information protected by law is a serious crime, and an investigation should be conducted to find and determine the source of the leak of this confidential information. The president of the CBCS meets from time to time with the Minister of Finance of the two countries forming the monetary union. And a scale of topics regarding the issues on the regulatory authority of the CBCS is discussed. The CBCS exercises its regulatory duties as prescribed by law. I have full confidence that if solvency or other risks are discovered by the regulator in any financial institution under its supervision, that the regulator will take the appropriate steps to have such threats corrected, including the withdrawal of the licenses of such a financial institution, as the regulator have done for decennia in the past. Based on the information available to me to date, I can conclude that the publicity surrounding the integrity of the president of the CBCS is steeped in rumor and innuendo and not based on facts. The stewardship of the president of CBCS over the past 30 years has been stellar, and in my view, no reason exists to question the integrity of the president. As Minister of Finance of St. Martin, I am of the opinion that good governance and the application of the rule of law should be the basis on which the CBCS and its president should be judged. In the interests of the CBCS and the countries forming part of the monetary union, it is my fervent hope that all parties will refrain from debasing the reputation of the regulator. Thank you very much.
Just a brief comment. Last week we hosted the International Health Regulation Conference. This is the cooperation between the kingdom partners, so between the Netherlands, Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin, with the focus on preventing and sharing best and worst practices for cross-border infectious diseases. So things like Ebola, Zika, those would be all topics for discussions, and that was a very productive conference. But as an outcome of that, one of the discussion points was, while it's great to cooperate on those types of things, I believe that there's much more room for cooperation between the kingdom partners in terms of how do we, in today's economy, everybody is struggling with ever-increasing healthcare costs. So how can we share the resources and best practices between ourselves to help and deliver affordable health care that's of a high quality close to home. And so to that end, I had a very positive meeting with the Minister of Health from Aruba, Minister Schwengel, and we are working on a cooperation agreement where we're going to synchronize on a number of things. For example, in Aruba, they've done a public survey as to what the public perceptions are and what the public believes the issues in terms of quality of care are, and also with the quality of their AZV, which is the equivalent of our SZV. Some other topics that were discussed, for example, they are working on, together with the World Bank, on developing a terms of reference for an operational or performance audit for AZV. And I believe that that's something that St. Martin could look at piggybacking off as well. They have a medical referral committee that's in place, and so as St. Martin, as we're looking to improve our medical referral process, again, that's something that we're looking to share their lessons learned. And then a big issue for me is about quality control in terms of our referral process, but also in terms of how we manage complaints from the public regarding issues in our healthcare system. And so actually the proposal that was made is that we look at a regional entity, so in other words, an entity that has representatives from both Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin. And the feeling was that by having it as a regional body, that it would be a more impartial group that would be able to travel to the different islands on a regular basis, and that they would be able to review the quality of healthcare and to field any sort of complaints from the public or concerns about how our referral process went. So overall, we're planning on a follow-up meeting in July, this time planning on going to Aruba to meet with the minister and follow up on the progress in terms of where we're cooperating and what our next steps are going to be.
Regarding the president of the central bank, who, in your opinion, is under attack, if you did not use the exact word, but coming down to that, do you believe the person or persons involved in this, how you say, trying to discredit this person, has any type of political agenda?
Are you asking me to participate in exactly what I just condemned, namely innuendo and rumor mongering? If that's the case, I will not participate in speculating as to those type of questions.
You asked for an investigation based on leaking. In this leaking that you're talking...
Correction, I did not ask for an investigation. I suggested that an investigation should take place to discover the source of the leakages.
Based on the meeting of Parliament and the members of Parliament that requested that you address this topic, what are their, what did they motivate this by? Because this has gone by, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks now, since the situation with the central bank came up, mostly in Holland and Curaçao.
No, there was no discussion in Parliament about this topic. I mentioned during my opening statement that several members of Parliament, having read those news reports themselves, requested me if I would express my opinion and say something to the public about those news reports. And that's what I just did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Bibi Hilbert Hart, Today newspaper, you have the floor. Good morning.
Yeah, one more central bank question, Minister Gibson. Do you know what the status is of the replacement of board member Mr. Peters by a permanent member that is collectively appointed by St. Martin and Curaçao? Are we getting anywhere?
Yes, the court, the president of the appellate court has expressed an opinion that the present interim president of the central bank, Mr. Robert Peters, continues to be the interim president of the central bank, notwithstanding that what was alleged his term had ended. The court said that he should remain, in the opinion of the president of the central bank, as president of the board of the central bank, as long as the both countries do not agree on who will become the permanent president of the board of the central bank.
Yeah, I understand that, but is there any progress with finding the right candidate for that position?
No, I cannot say to you that there is progress because there are also other issues in terms of the other members of the board. Presently, we have one person that we have presented. Curacao has approved one member. We are trying to get members appointed simultaneously, so we maintain the balance.
No?
So in filling up the vacancies of the other board members of the board is what is being worked on presently, and we have not gotten yet to a discussion, and given the political situation, we don't think that that will happen on short term as far as the position of the president of the board of the central bank is concerned.
Okay, thank you.
So hopefully when the other members are appointed, that the members then amongst themselves could tackle that question.
Yeah, okay. The Telem Group of companies has had a meeting with their staff and management where they announced the results for 2015. And when I asked the company if I could have a look at the annual report for 2015, they pointed to the shareholder. Will that report become available for public review? Will it be sent to Parliament, or will it stay confidential?
No, it will not stay confidential. All reports, all financial statements of all government-owned company will be made public or accessible because there's no secret. Those are the facts.
But when will it be available?
That I can't tell you.
When I asked Joe Dominique, he said, I can't help you.
No, I cannot tell you when that will become available to the public or to the Council of Ministers. Those financial statements still need to be ratified by the Council of Ministers and the shareholder. And after its ratification, that's the point in time when publicity can be given to it. For instance, if we do that before and the financial statements are not ratified or it's changed in some way,
I understand.
then we're creating more confusion than clarity.
I understand. I understood that the Council of Ministers tomorrow will deal with the policy for commercial sex workers on the island. Can you say anything about that?
Not before the Council of Ministers met on it.
No, but it's been dealt with tomorrow.
It's on the agenda for tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Over the years, our former Prime Minister have made several comments and calls about the location on St. Martin. As Finance Minister, are you satisfied with the location on St. Martin and the services the central bank is giving to St. Martin?
I'm not so sure what you mean by the location. Is location?
The branch, the services the branch on St. Martin is giving.
Oh, yes. I think St. Martin gets cooperation on all fronts from the central bank, much more so than has been the case in the past.
Thank you. Minister Meyers, I don't know if you're aware, so because it just happened a couple hours ago, the court delivered a verdict based on an injunction, I believe, filed by the former head of human resource of GEBE. Are you aware of this, and do you know the content of this court verdict?
Good morning. Thank you, Bibi, for the question. No, I am not aware of that. I had a informal meeting yesterday, to my recollection, with the new chairman of the Supervisory Board of Directors for NVGEB. We discussed certain matters relating to NVGEB, but that was not one of the topics that was discussed now. So I'm not aware of that now.
What's the status of the landfill at the moment? And garbage collection, what is your view of it right now? Are you satisfied?
As it pertains to the garbage collection, two particular parcels I am not at the moment fully satisfied with. The ministry is right now, because a couple of weeks ago we had a formal meeting with all the haulers, all the garbage collectors, and we discussed certain issues with them, what we expect from them in terms of the contract. We clearly indicated that the penalties involved if certain obligations were not fulfilled. And we indicated also after a 2-week period, there will be assessment, a report, and based on that, further measures would be taken. That assessment was done the end of last week. In parcels 5 and 6, there are still some concerns, and now we are moving towards the direction of invoking some of the penalties as indicated in the contracts. In terms of the landfill, I recently attended the Waste Expo in Las Vegas, attended some seminars as it relates to combating landfill fires. There you saw some latest technology, ways and means to mitigate landfill fires, but I'm still of the firm belief that we need to reduce the waste that is being deposited on the landfill. And right now, my cabinet, the ministry, we are busy with recycling and looking at ways to compact, bale, garbage, and not continue to grow the landfill. And to me, that is the right direction in terms of trying to reduce whatever landfill, whatever problems we are having on the landfill. I also had indicated that SOAB, we contracted their services for them to review the terms of reference for the landfill and give suggestions and put everything in bigger picture in terms of responsibilities for the principal, responsibilities for the contractor. And SOAB is busy with that analysis, and as soon as that is completed, I will inform the media of the outcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bibi. Hilbert? Any follow-up questions that the media might have? Bibi, you have the floor.
Yes, Minister Meyers, you said you had a meeting with the chairman of the GEB Supervisory Board of Directors. Are you aware that there is a local company called Rishani Transport that have been trying to get work at the GEBE for quite some time? This is a local that has a company but is unable to get work. Do you have any information on this?
No, I don't have any information on that. And the discussions what we had, it was, once again, it was an informal meeting, and it was just to update me in the last 2 weeks since they assumed the positions and responsibility as Supervisory Board of Directors for GB, the things them that has been done, what we see as the way moving forward, but we didn't go down in details in terms of the operation of the company and stuff like that, no.
All right, there was a permit, a request for a building permit for a parking garage and I think a semi-boardwalk for Simpson Bay. This was done by someone that is affiliated with the leader of the United People's Party. I'm hearing, and like I said, I'm hearing that this permit might be granted even though part of the land does not belong to the developer but to government. Can you give me an update on that?
But there's so many building permits being requested.
A parking garage for the Simpson Bay Marina by Isla del Sol area. There was one person that asked for a building permit for a parking garage and what you might want to consider a kind of a boardwalk. And this was something that is to be closed in.
Well, I received some advices as it relates to building permits and so forth from the ministry. I still have to review them and go through, but again, the ministry is the technical persons. They advise on building permits, and based on their advice, a decision is made. So I will have to look to see if that particular request is among those that I have in my office, and then I could give you at a later date answer to that question.
Thank you, Minister Myers. Minister Lee, with regards to SZV, just recently a police report came out about persons trying to use fraudulent SZV cards. Are you aware of this? And I think last week also I asked you about SZV and what is going on there, and you said you were not aware, but you were going to check into the information?
Last week, you mentioned about the incident at the Westin where there was some sort of a misdiagnosis.
Yes.
That information's been forwarded to the inspectorate, and the inspectorate is taking a look into it to see what exactly happened. There's some points that seem to be inconsistent, so I think once the inspector comes back to me with a report, I can inform you. Regarding fraudulent SZV cards, I know that this was an issue in the past. I think that there is an issue about people who are, let's say, obtaining SZV cards on false pretenses. And so, I mean, as part of SZV's efforts to become more efficient, reviewing compliance and who's supposed to have a card and fraudulent cards and how that's happening is all part of what SZV is working on. So this specific report, I haven't had a chance to see it, but in general, this is an issue that's been ongoing for a number of years and an issue that has the serious attention of SZV.
As a follow-up, do you know if this is also part of the investigation that was filed by SZV, the complaint filed to the prosecutor's office regarding the false or fraudulent SZV cards?
I'm not aware if it's connected or not.